Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles here with Ben. Ben, how are you doing today here on the first day of NBA free agency?
I'm doing good and feeling great myself. And yeah, the NBA, it's always good about uh trying to deliver some good entertainment for us. And man, we sure do have a lot to talk about this one, even more than I was thinking passively for this one. Whew, I can't wait. This will be another good one.
Yes, it will. A whole lot of player movement around the league, so it should be a lot of fun with some crazy trades. Of course, today, here on June 30th, is the first day of NBA free agency. At 6 p.m. is when teams can start meeting with other players. Not their own. There have been a whole lot of players that have already re-signed with their teams, and we'll talk about all that here today. But not only is it the first day of NBA free agency, Ben, kind of crazy to think that this marks the halfway point of 2026. Just unbelievable that we're
Yeah,
already halfway through the year, but it has
yeah,
certainly been a fun one so far.
yeah. Years gone by fast. That's a time could go. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, since we have a lot to go over, let's get started off with Pirtle. And a whole lot of different players traded over the last few days that we could guess for this. But Ben, you wanted to go with Grayson Allen. So let's go with
Yeah.
Grayson Allen. I like that for the first guess. Has played for a lot of different teams. All right. All we get from this is that this will be a tall guard in the East that's young and wears a smaller jersey number. Initial guess that comes to mind for me is Mr. Cade Cunningham in Detroit.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Yeah, there's
Let's go with it. Let's try
see.
Cade Cunningham. Yes. Oh, let's
Oh
go.
yeah,
Cade
wow,
Cunningham, number two in two. Glad we got that done quickly so
nice
we could
one,
talk
nice
about the
one.
craziness. Along which will also include some craziness about Cade Cunningham's team that I'm not sure we were expecting here until a few hours before recording.
Oh boy,
Before we get, but also another thing before we get started, we just did Pirtle Ben. There have been a lot of different players that have been moved over the last week or so, Ben, that have been on their teams for a while. When you look at Giannis, we're going to talk about John Morant and Miles Bridges today. Tyler Hero got traded in the Giannis trade. The Magic waiving Jonathan Isaac. I mean, these are a lot of players that were the longest tenured guys in the league. So, Ben, I want to see if you can name now, after these moves have been made with a lot of these players going, if you can name the 10 players in the league that have spent the most time with their current team.
oh okay, that's a good one.
So let's get started, Ben. The 10 players. Let's see if you can get them.
All right, 10 players. All right, let's see. Oh wow. Well, Joel Embiid, we'll go with him
Yeah.
first.
Yes, Joel Embiid,
There we go.
third longest tenured guy in the league. I'll say just a general
Or
hint. These are the longest tenured players. This is like 2017 and before. So that's where it starts now. Is 2017 is the 10th longest tenured player for their specific team. So it's the 10 players from 2017 and before.
okay.
So Joel Embiid, that's one.
Yep. Um, see here. Um, mhm, I mean, guys, and this could change it for this guy, Jalen Brown.
Yeah, that's right. Jalen
Yeah.
Brown, 2016. I was gonna say that definitely could change in a little bit here, but he is on the list as the seventh longest tenured player with their current team.
All right. Let's see. Trying to think quickly. Oh yeah, Mr. Steph Curry on the Golden State Warriors. Duh.
Yeah, since 2009, by far the longest tenured guy in the league with their current team.
Then How about Devin Booker? I'm going with him.
Yep, Devin Booker, he's on there. So there you go. You've gotten 4 of the 10. You've
Right.
gotten 1,
Yeah,
3, 6, and 7 so far.
to a good start. Okay. Um. Well, this is lesser known guys. People may forget about him. Dwight Powell on the Mavericks is another one.
Yes, very
Yeah.
good. Yes, Dwight Powell.
Yo.
Now, I'm not even sure. I have to look right now. I don't even remember if he's a free agent, if there's any chance that he does get moved from
Oh.
Dallas. Let's see if he's under contract. Oh, it looks like he is a free agent, the 35-year-old Dwight Powell. So this may come to an end after this season, but for
Wow.
now, he is on there. It is forgotten that Dwight Powell was a throw-in to the Rajon Rondo trade. He started out in Boston and then went to Dallas in the Rondo trade, and he's been there ever since. It really is crazy. But now you've gotten
Yeah.
1,
Crazy.
3, 5, 6, and 7. So you're missing 2, 4, and then the most, I guess, the most recent guys on this list.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let me think. Man.
All these guys
Oh.
have made all-star teams.
Nikola Jokic. Yeah.
Yep, Jokic with the Denver Nuggets.
Then we got all stars for
Yep, all-star players. You've got, I mean, I'll give you,
that.
so let's see. Number 2, I mean, the number 2 guy, he's played with the number 1 guy for his entire career
Yeah.
since 2012.
Yeah. Draymond Green.
Yep, there you go. Draymond Green, number 2. He's going to be in a major headline that we have to discuss here today.
Oh boy. Uh. All right. Jamal Murray.
Yep, Jamal Murray, same draft class as Jaylen Brown. So now you have the only guys you have left are the 2 players from the 2017 draft, the only 2 players from that draft that are still with the team that drafted them. That will be going into their 10th seasons with these teams heading into next year, which is crazy to think
Wow.
about for these
Yeah.
2
Crazy.
players.
Okay. Jason Tatum, I guess.
Yep, Jason Tatum, there you go.
And one more. All right. Who should be able to get this? Who was this? Who was this?
Yep, all-star player, has played in 2 finals with this team and made NBA history last year with an individual performance.
Bam in the bio.
There it is. Bam.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so there you go. 10 longest tenured players in the league with their team. Steph, Draymond, Embiid, Jokic, Dwight Powell, Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, Jamal Murray, Jason Tatum, and Bam Adebayo. It really is crazy. And when I was looking at this, because I was curious with how, the guys that have recently been traded, how long they've been with their teams. Giannis was 3rd on the list. He was between Draymond and Embiid. And then Jonathan Isaac, was drafted with Tatum and Bam. So he was right below at the end of the list. It's crazy that Jonathan Isaac was, right on the top list, similar to Dwight
Yeah.
Powell. But there we go. Let us know in the comments down below how you did with that trivia. But now let's get into the recent moves and transactions and player movement around the league. I guess first off, we'll start off with the trade that happened on I guess Monday afternoon. The trade that I still can't believe it actually happened, with the Memphis Grizzlies trading Ja Morant to the Portland Trail Blazers for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray, and that's it. The Memphis Grizzlies also sent reportedly $1 million in cash to the Trailblazers to make this deal happen. Ja Morant, someone that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, even going back to last year. We were talking about him with the LaMelo Ball Trae Young conversation about how it feels like he's become a negative player as far as an asset, and as a leader and as a winner on the floor here. And Ben, I mean, first off, are you surprised that Memphis was able to actually trade him? And how surprised are you that Portland is the destination?
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw this trade, uh, I first saw it from Shem, I was like, what? I I was shocked. I was confused at first because not me, and I don't think anyone thought of him for Portland. I didn't see any talk on him for Portland, and I mean, I did make a prediction myself for Jad. I was like, I'll guess Phoenix. It could make some sense, but no, it's Portland Trailblazers. Interestingly enough, take a swing on this, and yeah, it's interesting though. I question the idea. I mean, you at least only gave up like Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray for the guys. His value is low, but right now I think of it the fit's weird, uh, and you have him and Dame now, who I guess can end up being the starting backcourt. Though offensively, if the guys live up to their potential is to maybe it could be a pretty good offensive backcourt. Though there will be concerns defensively about it, but uh, maybe Portland gets something figured out there with, they should have some good defensive guys still on their team, like Kamara or maybe Halliday's still there, or Scoot, though they may have another move coming up after this, but it's just an odd fit. I don't really like Ja Morant's attitude. I'm not that big of a fan of it for Portland, though. At least it's not giving up much for the guy.
Yeah, this is one of those trades that it's another trade that it's like it's hard to figure out how to feel about this. Like we'll get into another one later. We talked about how the Lamelo trade, and this is kind of another trade that kind of fits into that because again, it's one of these point guards that their values was just super low. Again, John Morant. First off, for the Memphis Grizzlies side of things, I'll quickly say that casual fans, and I'm sure Grizzlies fans are not happy that the return for John Morant, who's going to go down on the short list as one of the great Grizzlies to ever play there, that they only got back Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. You have a bad contract in Jeremy Grant, and then Chris Murray, who really hasn't done much in his NBA career yet. But just for the Grizzlies side of things, I think that it was a win that they didn't have to give up a draft pick to get off of him, because that I thought for sure that John Morant was going to have to get traded with the draft pick in order to get him traded. Like he had such bad value, and the fact that the Grizzlies, who are now going into a full-on rebuild, with Cam Boozer now going to be the face of the franchise from day one. The fact that they didn't have to give up any draft picks, good on them. And for Portland, like you said, Ben, or like we just said, you didn't have to give up a whole lot to bring in John Morant, to bring him in at his lowest. And, we've seen before, and even at times last year when he played, sparingly, we saw flashes of the athleticism and the electrifying player that is John Morant. But, Ben, I mean, we kind of beating around the bush a little bit. The Portland Trailblazers now have four point guards, four really solid to great point guards on their team. When you look at John Morant now with Dame Lillard, and then Drew Holiday and Scoot Henderson, and those two were the starting backcourt for the Blazers that made the playoffs last year. And not to even mention Shaden Sharp, who was one of their leading scorers for most of the year. So on one hand, you bring in an all-star caliber player for nothing, essentially. But like you said, Ben, the fit is just such a big question mark. And Ja Morant, I think there are so many questions about him. Like, he really is going to have to improve himself. I think more so than the other guys that were in his category when you look at LaMelo Ball and Trae Young, because at least those two guys do things that help your team win it on the offensive end as far as shooting the basketball, making plays for teammates. Not only does John Morant struggle at those things, he's not a very good defender. Even though when healthy, he's one of the best athletes of this era of the league, Ben. So this is just a fascinating trade for Portland. I'm surprised that they decided to go in and do this when they still have four. Now they have 4 point guards on their team that they have to figure out what they're going to do with. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, and part of why I was shocked. I was like, I never would have thought Portland because I I think that they already had like a good like lineup of guards there, but maybe this leads to some other moves possible. Somehow I'm thinking, who knows? Maybe this is another possibility for Anthony Davis. Say if he does not want to sign the extension with Washington, like Washington, they could use a defensive guard. I would guess Drew Holiday would have to go and something like that because he has a big like salary thing. So looking out for maybe that. But yeah, it's interesting, But one of the more, one of the trades I've been more surprised about before, just due to the fact that Jag going to Portland, and then I like you said, I was thinking Memphis is possibly gonna have to give up like 2 first-round picks, like they were saying with them, and they didn't have to
Yeah.
give up many. That I was surprised about too. So that was a win there for Memphis.
Yeah, yeah, no question about it. And Ben, you mentioned the next step for Portland. Like you feel like with them having these 4 point guards on their team, and like it's not a situation where they have these 4 point guards and they don't have anyone else. Like you said, you laid out their roster. They made the playoffs last year because they were a very good defensive team led by Denny Avdia, who broke out and became an all-star for the Portland Trail Blazers. And then the front court defensively with Tamani Kamara, who can guard 1 through 4, and then Donovan Clingan, who's one of the more impressive young bigs as far as his rim protecting, in the league. So it's not a situation where you have these guards and no one else, but you'd have to think that there are moves that are going to be made for particularly Drew Holiday and probably Scoot Henderson. I mean, if I'm Scoot Henderson, this has got to be a bit of a rough story to take in here, considering that he is someone that Portland, they bought pretty high on there at the third overall pick in 2023. Injuries have kind of, been a factor the first couple of years in the league, but Ben, last year he was pretty good. Like he was healthy for the first half of the year, came back the second half of the season, played very strong, and in the playoffs, he was very impressive. I remember him having like a 30-point game, I believe, in game 2. Yeah,
Yeah, I
31 in game
believe he
2 when the
did.
Blazers won on the road. So for him, like this is finally like, okay, I'm finally showing what I'm capable of doing. And now, blink of an eye, he's the fourth best point guard on the team now. So, like, I'd have to imagine that there's going to be a move made for either of those guys. Ben, I know immediately in the group chat that we're all in, we're immediately like, okay, is this going to be the Jaylen Brown team? I know you talked about them potentially being a Jaylen Brown team as the third team in a potential Giannis trade, but
Yeah, dude.
the potential trade of maybe those 2 point guards go to Boston together. You send Scoot Henderson, the young potential back to Boston with the contract of Drew Holiday. He can go back to where he won the title a couple of years ago, and also send draft picks because it appears that Boston, first of all, it appears that Boston is kind of too deep in this Jaylen Brown trade thing to then go back and be kumbaya and be like, hey, it's all good. You can come back for training camp and we'll be okay. Like, Ben, it feels like they kind of have to trade him now. And if Portland did it, I mean, I feel like that could make a lot of sense. Drew, Scoot, and first round picks for Jaylen Brown. I think that could actually make a lot of sense for both teams.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense, possibly. Yeah, and for Portland, they did that. I mean, I do really like Donovan Clingan, and I still see some more good potential out of him. So if you
Yeah.
don't have to give him up in a Jalen Brown trade, I mean, I think that would be great for them. You definitely need him going forward on the team. But yeah, it- I would feel great if Jalen Brown went there at least, just to be like, yeah, I got my prediction right. But
Yeah.
somehow I've also heard, some other teams like now the Denver Nuggets have popped up. So who knows? Some more wild card team could surprise with that, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Jalen Brown, of course, is the big name going around. We'll talk about the Kawhi stuff. He's like the big name that's now like on the market here. But I think quickly with this trade, and we kind of briefly touched on it, but I think Drew Holiday, him now potentially being on the move is huge for the league. Even at 35 years old, or now 36 years old, I think he still is going to be one of the most valuable, coveted players in the league, Ben, because he has the respect of all of his peers that he is one of the best perimeter guard defenders in the league. We saw that in two instances. He was the finishing move for Milwaukee for them to win the title, and he was the finishing move for Boston to win the title as well. And he's coming off a good offensive year for the Blazers as well. I mean, he put up 16 points, 5 boards, 6 assists per game on pretty good efficiency. Like, he is still a very strong player, and if he is now on the move, I mean, I think this could potentially change the entire championship landscape. Maybe not completely change it, because obviously, regardless of what happens, Oklahoma City and San Antonio and probably New York out of the East will be the clear favorites. But wherever Drew Holiday goes, that will be a major move in the NBA that could create another championship contending team, out of a squad that maybe we don't think that's the case right now.
Yeah, definitely a possibility, and yeah, there could be like multiple moves. Who knows? It comes up that's like that, so it's interesting.
Yeah. What I'll say is for Portland, I hope that they are not done and they do decide to try to get some more stuff back for Drew Holiday and Scoot Henderson. I mean, another thing with Scoot Henderson is I said he just finished up year 3. That means he is due for a contract extension here, going in this summer, heading into his 4th year. And, he did have a strong playoffs, but I'm sure that the Portland front office is thinking like, I mean, it's been too inconsistent and you haven't been able to show us enough greatness, at what he was projected to be, to give him the full contract extension. So that maybe that's the domino where, he does get moved and he can show off an opportunity somewhere else. Let's grade the trade, Ben, as we always do. What do you well, how would you grade this trade for these two sides, for Portland and Memphis?
Yeah, so for Memphis, I would give it a A minus. Like overall, like yeah, maybe in the past we tried Morant, maybe a better return before, but I think this was a good move, good to move away from the Morant drama. You didn't have to give up any first round picks somehow, which was a win to somehow pull that off. And yeah, I mean, you get Jeremy Grant is solid. I mean, yeah, I mean, Memphis is gonna be a big team. It's looking like going into next year, which is funny, but like what they're trying there, like a grit and grind team, and if Grant plays some minutes, can show off the good stuff. Maybe you can flip him for more value potentially, which I guess is all right out of this trade. And then for Portland, yeah, I mean, maybe if they make another move, it could look better, but I don't like it. I give it a D. I think,
Wow.
yeah, like I know you didn't give up too much for him, but it's just a weird fit. Like Morant and Dame, I just wonder how they figure it out if they start. I don't like it at all defensively. It and another part of it is, Morant, he has been the most reliable. player as of recently with being able to be on the floor and
Mhm.
just it, what they like already have the guard room that shocked me.
Yeah, very, very shocking. For Memphis, I'll give them a B for this particular trade. I do think that it was great that they didn't have to give up a first round pick, but obviously, it shows just how much they've fallen from what they were supposed to be. I'm pretty sure before every season, ESPN has an article where they do a power ranking on the future of every team in the league. And just 4 years ago, number one was the Memphis Grizzlies because they were just a 56-win team with Ja Morant looking like he's going to be a perennial All NBA, All Star player, MVP candidate for the Grizzlies. And they get one playoff series win out of it. And now, they've completely moved off of that entire era. Um, I think it was good that they were able to get a bunch of first round picks for Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bain over the last year. So they were able to get 7 firsts for those guys. And that's why, not getting a whole lot back for John Morant is okay. But I'm going to give him a B for that. I am excited though. Obviously, this Grizzlies team. This isn't updated since the trade. Of course, Morant is out. Now you have Grant and Murray, fitting in somewhere there. But for the Grizzlies, I'm excited now for the point guard play because there will be opportunities for all those guys. Like Walter Clayton is someone that they acquired from the Jazz in the Jaren Jackson trade, who was a great college player at the national champion at Florida. I know Joey loves him; that's his favorite player. He might get a chance to start, but I mean, Ben, our boy, former Cab Ty Jerome, he only played 15 games last year, but he averaged about 20 points per game. Like he looked great, so maybe he'll get a chance to start at the point and put up some numbers. I'm excited to see what they do now with not a whole lot of pressure. And for Portland, I don't like it as much either, but I'll be a little less harsh on it. Go with a C plus on it. I do think that it's interesting that they're going to go with this. I think what they're going to try to emulate with this, Ben, is the previous thing that they did when they were competitive, the Dame CJ backcourt. Now it's the Dame and Ja backcourt. And the thing is, the Dame CJ backcourt, and obviously Ja and CJ McCollum are very different players. CJ, much better shot creator and an overall shooter. But that was a pretty successful era of Portland basketball. And outside of that backcourt, they didn't really have that many great role players around them. Like starting alongside those guys, it was Mo Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, Mason Plumlee, Yusuf Nurkic, like not the best talent, right? So I'm very interested in the fact that they're going to try this again with 2 small guards in the backcourt. But now, instead of just rough role players alongside them, now you have Denny Avdia, all-star, Tamani Kamara, all-defensive player, and Donovan Clingan, awesome shot blocker. So I'm intrigued by this at the very least. Will it work? I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to work out, but I'm just intrigued that they're going with the same idea again, but it's a big time upgrade with the surrounding role players. So for that, I'm interested with how this is going to work.
Yeah, sure will be interesting. Um, yeah, that's what I could say.
Yeah, at the
Let me
very least,
see.
we'll see if Portland is done. I mean, the grades that we gave them, it's for what the trade is right now. I'm gonna also say I for incomplete and hope that they are not done yet. Because if this is all they do, it could maybe move down into the the low the D range for me, or maybe even a F for for Ben. But moving over to the other shocking trade that happened, believe sometime on Sunday, was another trade with the Charlotte Hornets giving up a key player from their last era. The Hornets traded away Miles Bridges, a first-round pick in 2029, the worst pick of the Jazz, the Wolves, and the Cavs, and then a 2027 second-round pick between the Pelicans and the Blazers. And in exchange, the Hornets received Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and an unprotected 2033 Phoenix Suns first-round pick. So, Ben, the Hornets, we talked about it with the LaMelo trade after a half season last year where they were incredible on both ends of the floor, had the best lineup in the league. they decide to move off of the two longest tenured players on the team, moving LaMelo to Minnesota and now Miles Bridges to the Suns here. Ben, what do you think about this trade? Starting off with the Hornets side of things.
Yeah, for sure that I really like it. I think you got a good return for the guy. Like I really like for them. They somehow got that future first round pick somehow. That
Oh, we will
be
talk about
really
that for this.
helpful for
Yes,
them down the line. And then you have some more shooting too. Allen and O'Neal, the Hornets, they're really gonna look to continue to space the floor. And yeah, they got a lot of shooters on this team. They have the potential to possibly be one of the better 3-point shooting teams in the league. So I like what they got going with that. And yeah, I thought, even before they did the LaMelo trade, that it was time for them to move on from Miles Bridges this offseason, and it was smart thing to do by them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, again, like we talked about, I think it's a tough spot to be in if you're a Hornets fan because this is the best basketball that you've seen in a decade. But I think we've all known from the previous regime, even in the previous Hornets era, where their team was LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, and PJ Washington, that core of players, Kelly Oubre. This is just not, you just never really got the feeling that they were going to take the next step because of how the mannerisms of those players and how they were going to lead. So I like it from the Hornets perspective that even though they were good guys, we want to set a culture with players that lead and play basketball the right way and help the community in the right way and all that stuff, both on and off the floor. So I like that they have completely moved on from that previous era that peaked at 3 blowout losses in play-in tournaments. And now I really like how their team is structured going forward. Could they be worse record-wise next season? Potentially. We'll see. But I like where they're at a lot better, and especially with this Phoenix Suns first round pick, Ben. Golly, let's talk about the Sun side of things. Miles Bridges, good player. He fits a positional need that the Suns had. I think that was probably the most likely team he was going to end up being traded to. But Ben, I am just flabbergasted that after the Suns are currently in this position where they have been trying to dig out of them trading away all their first round picks to get Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. And now you trade away 2033 unprotected to get Miles Bridges when at best they're going to be a playing team in the Western Conference. Why did they do this? I absolutely hate this trade for the Suns. I have very strong feelings about this for the Suns. I really don't like it.
Yeah, I don't think it was a great trade by them either. Not terrible, but it's not the best, and especially with giving up that first round pick. Yeah, I'm not a fan of them giving up that first round pick when I agree with you, Miles. Like I was thinking maybe this team gets Ja Morant well, they miss out on him, and I think at best this team could be like a playing range team. And Miles Bridges, I think could fit him all right. He does, fit the need at the four, but another, part of it that's tough is, Grayson Allen was playing well for your team. He was spacing the floor well for your team. You gave up a few shooters for this, and Miles Bridges, he can have some hot games for free, but he's not that consistent from there. He's not, I would say, like a shooter type of guy, in my opinion, and it just it was the best, but not terrible. Like he's a good player that be a good contributor for them, but I just wonder, also how are they gonna figure things out with shooting? Maybe they sign someone for agency for some more shooting. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think positionally it works great. I mean, the power forward spot was definitely their weakest spot. I mean, Royce O'Neal was basically the starting power forward the whole season. And that's kind of what his career has been. Like he's a 6'6" power forward. That's out there to shoot the ball. He can defend a lot of positions. But that's just I don't know if that was the trade. Like the Suns to me, there are you can count on your hand on one hand the amount of teams I feel like that maximize their potential, Ben, with last season. And to me, it was probably the New York Knicks, obviously winning the title. Um, Gosh, I mean, probably not even the Spurs because you got a lot of people expecting them to win the finals. Like I would say, maximizing their potential. The Suns are one of the few teams I thought that did that. A lot of us expected them to be hot garbage. There were some people. Ben, were you one of them that had them in the play and you were the highest on
I
them?
I did have them in the play in that like the 10th seed before the year. They even did a few spots higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, 45 wins for this team was extremely impressive, and I know that they had guys that were, Devin Booker didn't even play, all the season. Dylan Brooks missed some time. Jalen Green was out for a while. Like they dealt with a lot of injuries and still had a 45-win season. So they had a great season, and maybe they can jump up to be higher than that in the regular season standings. But to me, like I also think that for the 45-win season for them, I think that a lot of records this season for a lot of teams were skewed because of how many tankers were at the bottom and how many extra wins that some of these teams got from playing these awful teams. So their 45-win season, even if they have the similar season next year, just because they're playing more competitive games, they might lose like 5 or so games or something like that. And even if they do increase the regular season wins, Ben, who are they beating in the playoffs when it actually matters?
Yeah.
This team got completely dominated by the Thunder, as we expected, and they get Miles Bridges, who's one of the he probably ranks in the top 3 of players that have played the most regular season games with no playoff games. Like I'm pretty sure it'd be Lowry Markkinen, Colin Sexton, and then Miles Bridges is right there. So I don't know. I don't think that Miles Bridges is a player that you trade an unprotected first round pick in 7 years for. Like, I just think that's brutal. At the very least, learn from your mistakes in the past and make it like a top 5, top 10 protected draft pick. Like, I think that it's an absolutely brutal trade for the Suns. And even if they play better, than expected, it's not going to matter to me because they're not going to win a title with this team or do anything special. And to me, you just keep the core that you already had going with Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal and see what happens. Because to me, this doesn't make them that much better than they were before this trade.
Yeah, to me they're like around the same still, and yeah, it's interesting. And what I've also noticed with the Suns that's funny is Miles Bridges is a Michigan State guy. Then their owner Matt Ishbia, he's a big Michigan State guy. I know, like Jordan Dodd has some connection from Michigan State, who's the head coach, and
I think
he
he also went to Michigan State.
yeah, I think he did, and like
Yeah,
they
he did.
pursued like Tom Izzo, I heard last off season too. So he likes his Michigan State guys. I mean, maybe a Michigan State thing is good here, though. I have questions with this trade.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of the jokes going around is that this is now they're not the Phoenix Suns, they're the West Lansing Suns
Yeah.
after this trade. And it makes and that makes sense maybe to bring it in for those reasons, but again, the first round pick. And who knows, so many things can change in 7 years, but the fact that the Suns are in this position that they're in now where they're having to take chances on these different players because they traded away all their first round picks and they did it again. And now they only have one tradable first for the next 8 years, and that's in 2032. I really don't like it. It's brutal. Like grading this trade, this is my D plus trade for the Suns. I absolutely dislike this a lot, even if they exceed expectations. The only way this is actually a win to me is if they somehow can squeeze out a conference finals or somehow make the finals out of this, which is not going to happen. There's no way that could happen, right? I mean, that'd be the only
Yeah.
way to me that this works out. And then for the Hornets, again, I really love this A minus. They're going in a great direction. They bring in two players that really fit their team, and now with Allen O'Neal and Nas Reed, along with this first round pick. I mean, the first pick, obviously, the first round pick, we'll see what happens down the line. But you bring in three guys that have, a lot of experience playing in, different big games, three veterans around the league that all provide spacing, defensive intensity, and versatility offensively as well. So I love it for the Hornets. Hate it for the Phoenix Buns. They're doing it again.
Yeah, for me, a little higher in the some this at a C plus though. Yeah, uh, fine trade fits all right there. I would have leaned not to do it because of that first round draft pick. May come back to haunt them in the future, depending on where they are then, which who knows. But if they're somehow not good, then they could maybe regret that then. But and for the Hornets, I gave it a day. Really like it for Charlotte, as I said, and I really like the direction Charles Lee is going in with this team after giving up Lamelo and you know uh Miles Bridges, and I like these young guys he's believing in the building around Miller and Cadet Bull, and as Reed's a great dude, he'll be fun there.
Yeah, so those are the two trades though that have happened over the last couple days. Very shocking out of nowhere, but always fun when we get those types of trades because we've got some other reports about some news around the league that have come out over the last couple days. Ben, let's start off with this Kawhi Leonard stuff. We've been talking about, is Kawhi Leonard going to be on the move from the Clippers as they potentially go into going younger with this, maybe a retool or a rebuild? Could a team like Detroit be interested in Kawhi Leonard? There are other teams that we were thinking, but kind of out of the blue, Ben, we get the report from a lot of different sources that Kawhi Leonard is interested in going back to the place where he won the title, the Toronto Raptors, and that would be one of the only places he'd be willing to sign an extension. The other one would be his other former team, the San Antonio Spurs. But this Toronto stuff is really heating up here, Ben. It sounds like the Raptors would give up all-star forward Brandon Ingram and potentially a first-round pick to get Kawhi into Toronto. But this is a crazy development that again, it would be another shocking turnaround here in this offseason.
Yeah, it certainly is crazy, but I think it's cool, and I like that Kawhi somehow interested in going back there because, well, the one best year of his career was there. I think the one year, you know, when he won the title there, of course, and he was so much fun to watch in the playoffs that year on Toronto. So if he goes back, I would be excited, and they gave up, Brandon Ingram was like the best player return. Just a couple first round picks. I think that could be good for them, and yeah, just I like the idea to where I think he can fit good on their team. He could slide in, say if they do, end up giving up Ingram, he could just slide in at the free, and I think him Barnes would be a pretty good defensive pairing right there, and it would definitely be a good scoring boost for Toronto. They, you know, impressively somehow almost beat our Cavs in round one, but you know, I was thinking after that series, like, man, if they had like more of an offensive punch, like Kawhi on that team, the Cavs could have been in trouble, could have lost. So I think this is interesting, and it's fun that they're interested in him. Fun that somehow Kawhi has interest in going back there.
Yeah, and if he went there for Brandon Ingram, and that I mean that gives them an offensive boost in the playoffs, which Brandon Ingram did not give them. I mean, we talked about how just brutal Brandon Ingram was in the playoffs, and the fact that the Raptors still took the Cavs to 7 games, even with their one of their all stars from last year, just having one of the biggest playoff drops in the season, or in this last season, from an all star player. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think it definitely is a trade that could make sense. It's just to me, it's just ironic considering that maybe one of the biggest career mistakes is obviously hindsight is 2020, but probably one of the biggest career mistakes over the last several years is the fact that Kawhi probably did leave Toronto after winning the title in 2019 to go to the Clippers. Now it looked great with Kawhi and Paul George, and I thought they were going to win the title the next season there. I thought that they should have definitely done more than they did in that era, but it seemed like the right move at the time. But here you have this team in Toronto that when they won the title in 2019, I mean, you look at the roster, and if that team was, all the players in that rotation were in their prime, just how incredible it would have been. Of course, you have the guys that are in their prime with Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard. You have Pascal Siakam, who that was the first year of his breakout. We've seen the incredible player that he's become. You have Danny Green. You have an older Marc Gasol. Fred VanVleet, Serge Ibaka, Norman Powell, and OG Anunoby off the bench like that, if that could have been a legit threat for many years to come if Kawhi stayed in Toronto. But I'm sure that it's probably a thing where Raptor fans are excited that Kawhi could be coming back to Toronto, but also something where like, man, why did you have to leave us? The year after.
Yeah, yeah, true. Uh, some of them, still could be like, "Well, why in the world is he wanting to come back after leaving us?" But I think a lot of them will, accept it and think it's cool. I guess as long as it goes down, which I think it has a good chance of happening, as he said.
Yeah, I do as well. I mean, the thing to watch with that is, of course, it's something that has been widely speculated throughout the league, but we haven't really touched on it a whole lot on this podcast. But that's the whole aspiration situation with Kawhi Leonard and how that's been an ongoing investigation for probably about a year to the day, about like literally for a whole year, and we have essentially heard nothing about how if Kawhi is going to be suspended, if the Clippers are going to have to lose draft picks, like how that is all going to work out here. So, I think if I'm not mistaken, the NBA is going to have a board of governors meeting in a couple of weeks here in mid-July. But look, the NBA is going to need to crack down and finish off this investigation here because that's going to be the thing to watch with this trade because you can't have the Raptors trading for him and then he gets suspended and now he's, missing all these games and now it completely screws up the entire situation. So the NBA needs to have a conclusion on this as soon as possible so that if there is a Kawhi trade, whether it's to Toronto or somewhere else, that we don't have any questions about that part of it and it can just be strictly about basketball.
Yeah, true. Um, yeah, I mean, we haven't had much answers on that other than talk that get reported about it last offseason. So, yeah, it's definitely, something, still to look at with this. But, yeah, I mean, hopefully eventually it's just, we're thinking about just basketball hopefully with Kawhi. But, yeah, I do totally knows I don't understand cases like that well, anyways.
Yeah, no question about it. Let's see. Next, let's talk about the one of the shocking player option decisions that could have a big impact on the league. Draymond Green of the Warriors declined his $27 million player option, which was certainly a shocker around the league, but he did it to try to open up space for Golden State to try to go after LeBron James, who's of course an unrestricted free agent, and Anthony Davis, who's currently on the Washington Wizards, to make a big four with LeBron, AD, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green. Ben, this is actually real that this is potentially happening. Can you believe that this is actually happening and that the Warriors are trying to make this happen?
Yeah, it's crazy, but uh, I'm not like too surprised by it because if they somehow pull this off, I think the fit if they're all on the floor together could be pretty good and fun and yeah, the Warriors are just desperate as do, and this is like them being desperate for more star level talent around Steph Curry, which I for them it's good to be interested and see if you can pull anything off here to see if you can go on one more, few more good runs with Steph. Is now Steph's getting older, but he's still going strong. He's still playing like Steph Curry. He still is great, and yeah, I just still like don't totally know though if LeBron's gonna want to end up going there. But of course, as reports mentioned, they would have to do an Anthony Davis trade. Say if he didn't want to extend with Washington, they traded him to Golden State for LeBron to like ever be a possibility of going there.
Yeah, so what it sounds like you said, it sounds like that LeBron and AD, of course, the former Lakers championship duo, they'd be a package deal to go to Golden State. And what the deal is right now is that Rich Paul, who's of course the agent for all three of these guys, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Draymond Green, that he is now going to, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Washington Wizards. They're going to ask him, hey, are you going to give Anthony Davis a max extension? Like, what are you guys going to do? You gave Trae Young the bag. Are you going to give Anthony Davis the bag? And if not, then I'd expect them to request a trade to Golden State, then to get probably Jimmy Butler and draft picks back to Washington. And then you have yourself a crazy big four here. I mean, I think that's what the Warriors are hoping happens in this situation. Now, interestingly, we did get the news that Kristaps Porzingis is going to re-sign for 2 years, $40 million. So he's going to still be on their team. And since he re-signed, he can't be traded now till December 15th. So he's going to be on their team. That fills up some money there, for next year. But we'll see if this actually ends up happening. I guess we might as well address it right now. Of course, free agency starting today. This is the big board for all the free agents. There are a lot of, free agency, of course, isn't what it used to be, but there are certainly some appealing names available. But of course, the number one name on the top of the list is LeBron James. What is he going to do for year 24? Is he still going to play? And if so, where is he going to go? We've been predicting everything on here, Ben, trying to see if we can hold ourselves accountable and see what happens. Have to finally ask the question now that it is here, Ben. Where do you think LeBron James is going to sign here, for potentially his final, his farewell tour near the end of his career? Do you think that he is going to stay with the Lakers? Do you think he could go to the Golden State Warriors, who was a thorn in his side for a long, long time with our Cavs and then even a bit for the Lakers? Or is there the possibility that he wants to go back to one of his other former teams, the Miami Heat, who just traded for Giannis, or our Cleveland Cavaliers, who could be set up pretty good to win the Eastern Conference if James went there? Where do you think LeBron will end up going?
Yeah, it's funny for LeBron. You never know with him, but what I'm thinking about this with LeBron is I was thinking he's gonna do whatever like makes him happiest, and
That's the
I
report.
think it's mainly up to LeBron here is what I think, and well, he seemed really happy about Cleveland stuff recently, like that, trip he went on with the guys from 2016, and like if he went to Golden State after that trip, that would be odd, though. I mean, could respect it though. My prediction is, I'm not even joking. I'm like being it's somehow a serious prediction I have, but I somehow think he's gonna end up on our cabs and sliding at the free spot. Y- could be wrong, but I think he like when I think LeBron, I think Cleveland, Akron. He's done big stuff in Akron. That's what I think of happy with LeBron James. And I think, possibly, with, him bringing like the first title here to Cleveland and just how that title meant so much for LeBron, his hometown team growing up, that he could possibly want to retire as a Cav, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. Of course, the Cavs let that happen. I think Dan Gilbert, guessing with him, he could possibly be open to something like this just for like business wise for them. So could be a wild prediction to you viewers, but it's just like, man,
It's I mean,
like the game
it's
of golf
certainly
that could
possible.
happen.
It's certainly possible.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I think the options that I stated make a lot of sense. Like, I would think that it's the Lakers, the Cavs, or the Warriors. The Heat one I think is a little more far fetched for the overall fit, and also when talking about LeBron, who you can argue if he's the greatest player, to ever play the game. I think he is. We could have that conversation, at some point when we have nothing else to talk about on the podcast. But when you think about legacy stuff, um, you think of him as being the number 23 and the number 6 in Miami. And if he went back to Miami, he wouldn't be able to wear either number because 23 is retired. That's why he didn't wear it. And number 6 is a league wide retirement for Bill Russell. So he literally would have to
Wow.
find a new jersey number. And so that would just be weird. Um, Golden State, of course, it's just so interesting because I think that could actually happen. And we talk about his happiness. I mean, I'm sure he wants to play with Steph Curry. I mean, that'd be incredible to watch him play with Steph if Anthony Davis was back with his teammates. I mean, he would be very happy, I think, in Golden State. Now, overall, for his legacy, it'd be a major thing that could maybe, be dampen his GOAT case, which I don't think, it should not at all. We are very long removed from the battles with the Warriors in the finals, and then even with the Lakers in the play-in and the playoffs. And right now, it would make a lot of sense for LeBron to go to Golden State and team up with Steph Curry if that's what makes him really happy. Of course, the Cavs to come back home, retire as a Cav. The small forward position is the one that's definitely opened the most for the Cavs. And if his main goal is to win a title, I think that would make a lot of sense. I mean, the Cavs did make the conference finals last year, and if they could add LeBron James, that could, I mean, people might put them as one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference if he came back. And even if he stayed with the Lakers, like, I don't know if that's the best, but I don't think that's the worst either. Like, that's not a brutally bad, spot for him to be in either. So that's what's just so exciting. It's like all of this does kind of anything could make sense of the Lakers, the
Yeah.
Warriors, or the Cavaliers. I hope that I've gone back and forth on this. I do hope that he comes back to the Cavs. I hope that is what is happening. And Ben, I love that you're predicting it because you've been on fire with predictions for this season. So I hope that continues with this one. But I feel like he's going to end up staying with the Lakers. That'll be my official prediction. I think he will end up being with the Lakers because that would also be fitting too if he retired as a Laker. Like that would make a lot of sense as well. But I'm hoping that we get to see this again. I am hoping. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if we even hear it. Upcoming. I mean, I should mention. I'll mention it once again at the end. At 6 p.m., I'll figure out the technical logistics of it. Ben and I are going to go live here on YouTube, and hopefully stuff breaks right at 6 p.m. If not, we'll go for a few hours, and hopefully we get some news breaking. Maybe LeBron is one of them, but that would be absolutely incredible. But for the record, I say he's staying in LA. Ben has LeBron, the kid from Akron, returning home for his final heyday and retire as a Cleveland Cavalier. Man, just can't wait to see what actually happens with that. Next bit of shocking news. Let's talk about the team that had the best record in the Eastern Conference last year, the Detroit Pistons. Now, one of the biggest questions of the summer that we had coming in was going to be, what were the Pistons going to do with their big man, Jalen Duren, who was an all-star, all-NBA player last year. I voted for him as most improved. was a great second option to Cade Cunningham on a 60-win Pistons team, but then had one of the worst playoffs for an all-star as far as the biggest drop-off that we really have ever seen. So we've been so curious, Ben, at what the Pistons are going to do to try to bring him back as a restricted free agent. And it sounds like the Pistons have had some talks with Jalen Duren and his agency. And from what we've gotten, it sounds like Jalen Duren is not really happy about the talks that he's been hearing from the Pistons on a recent contract. And it sounds like he is hoping to get a sign and trade out of Detroit and to the Sacramento Kings, Ben. What is going on? Like, this is crazy. Like, the other stuff with the Pistons that kind of doesn't really make sense to me right now is they have a lot of free agents. They accepted the team option to Dennis Jenkins, which obviously makes a lot of sense. Great story for the Pistons and throughout the league. They re-signed Kevin Huerter for 3 years, $27 million, someone who they acquired in the middle of the season, but really didn't play at all in the playoffs. JB Bickerstaff did not trust him at all in the playoffs. Immediately after, got a report from Brett Siegel that they are likely to waive Duncan Robinson. And from Chris Haynes, he reported that it is unlikely that Tobias Harris returns to the Pistons. So, Ben, all of a sudden, in a span of, we got all these reports within like 10 minutes of each other. So in a span of 10 minutes, the Pistons go from 60-win team last year in the Eastern Conference, 1 win from the conference finals before losing to Cleveland. And now this could be a complete and total disaster, and they could lose like 3 or 4 key players from their team last year. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. This is just strange. Like, yeah, the Kevin Huerter thing, it's questionable, and like that's strange that it's like they're like probably gonna waive Duncan Robinson. I guess they re-signed Huerter. They couldn't like trust the playoffs, and Robinson is a pretty good 3-point shooter who obviously
He was
played a
their
lot.
only one, the only one on their team.
Yeah, he's like he was like their best shooter, and like if they lose Robinson, like they don't really get much back at all in any way with shooting. That could be a concern going in the next season for them. And
now we should mention though, with this, we haven't mentioned it yet because this happened a couple days ago. But the Pistons did acquire Isaiah Joe from the Thunder for 2 second-round picks. We mentioned that the Thunder were going to have to salary dump Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe. They did Wiggins to Atlanta, and then they did Isaiah Joe to Detroit. So maybe this means that they're okay with giving away Duncan Robinson, and Isaiah Joe is going to be their starting shooting guard heading into next year. So maybe that's what ends up happening. But either way, Ben, still seems a little bit strange here. Right now, going into free agency, because they also traded Isaiah Stewart in a salary dump to the Memphis Grizzlies. So right now, the only players that are under contract for them right now, Cade Cunningham. Right now, Duncan Robinson, we'll see what happens with him. Karis LeVert, Asar Thompson, and Ron Holland on team options, along with Dennis Jenkins and Marcus Sasser. Chaz Lanier, who was their rookie last year, and then Paul Reed, who's going to be on an expiring deal. Tobias Harris could be gone. Duncan Robinson could be gone. Isaiah Stewart could be gone. And Jalen Duren could be gone. All in one summer. What do you think about the Jalen Duren side of this, that he's not happy about the contract talks of it? Like, what do you think of the Kings being the team that could be interested in getting him back?
Well, I see why the Kings are showing interest, and that is because I mentioned this before, but you have with the new draft tanking rule thing that the regulation zone, and like if the Kings did somehow sign Jalen Duren, I think it could better improve their chances of not possibly being in that and having a better chance, a top pick of the draft, which you should really want in order to hope your lottery luck can change for better possibly next year for Sacramento. And Duren, I think, would fit good there, but if they did get Duren, I'm guess so bonus would be at it. Wouldn't make much sense for him to still be there if they did acquire him. So yeah, it's really interesting, and I think Duran is looking for a big contract, and part of why he's starting to seem interested in Sacramento, I think, could be is that they're believing in him with a big contract, and there's some stalls and talks with Detroit. Though who knows, maybe they can resolute on something. But this is really interesting, and I think it could possibly hurt Detroit if they lose him.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, the Kings are, in an interesting situation because they have all these old guys and they were a 22-win team last year. And we could see a lot of those different guys on the move. The news for the Kings is Zach LaVine accepted his $49 million player option and probably the easiest decision in the history of mankind. Domantas Sabonis could be on the move, like you said, Ben. DeMar DeRozan is an interesting name. I've been seeing that he could potentially be a candidate that gets bought out by Sacramento and becomes a free agent. That would be an interesting circumstance if he went to a playoff team, for cheaper money. Russell Westbrook's a free agent. They still have Malik Monk, DeAndre Hunter that they acquired midseason. But one of the other strange transactions, smaller one, is that they traded away Devin Carter and a 2033 second round pick to the Atlanta Hawks for nothing. And the Kings selected this guy with the 13th pick 2 years ago. And this is a rebuilding team that decided to trade away a lottery pick from 2 years ago. Like, dude, I don't know. Maybe they have something up their sleeve. What I'll be interested in seeing with this connection between these two teams is that if somehow Jalen Duren does do a sign and trade out of Detroit and does somehow end up on Sacramento, is if one of those guys that are on a bigger contract is the guy that ends up back in Detroit. Like if Duren does get traded to the Kings, does Sabonis end up on the Pistons? Does Zach LaVine finally end up on the Pistons? I've wanted that to happen for a long time. I think that could be something that could be in play here. That the Pistons don't want to lose him completely for nothing, even if you may not really want Sabonis, even if you may not really want Zach LaVine. It's better to get some talent in the door than to lose a young all-star player for nothing.
Yeah, and Pistons do somehow not get Duren back. I'm thinking maybe they would try to get Miles Turner. That might be a possibility for them. Who knows? He'd be a guy who could space the floor at the big mess spot they got him. And we saw when he was with Indiana, he did, do some great stuff in the playoffs. He was, that definitely helpful to them when they did went on their crazy run, just over a year ago. So, yeah, it's interesting what's going on with the Pistons, and I think they're going to be one of the teams I'll be looking at with the most coming up here over this week, basically, with what could end up happening.
Yeah, but so far we're not even at day one of free agency yet with it starting yet, and right now, if all these reports end up being true, Pistons are no question to me one of the top losers of the summer already. We'll see if, and they're going to have to figure out some things before this completely falls to shreds after an incredible season last year. So certainly, they're probably the number one team to watch here in free agency.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So other free agent moves around the league, of course, ever since the final day of the finals, teams can renegotiate with their own free agents and own players to come back. So the big ones, I'll go over all these at once. And Ben, if there's anyone that you specifically want to talk about, we can talk about them. So Oklahoma City re-signed Isaiah Hartenstein on a new 3-year deal to stay under contract with the Thunder for 5 years, $134 million. We saw them salary dump Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins and decline the team option for Kenrich Williams. And then we saw today that they accepted Lou Dort's $17 million team option, which we also expected, and that could turn into a trade. I guess we'll just start on that. We can go through all these a little quickly here, Ben. Anything to mention from that? What did you think about them getting this deal done with Hartenstein?
Yeah, it's just like one word that's expected to me. It's just what I was expecting them to do, and I think it's great that they got Hartenstein back. They need him. I know they just drafted the day Mara, who, you know, it, you know, a few years time from now could eventually be that starter. But I, I really, like all the big guys they have, and just now it's gonna be about hopefully stepping up even more to stop Wemby and other teams who could start being really good and tougher than them. We'll see.
Yep. So we'll see where Lou Dort does probably get traded. I think the team that I'd watch for him to get traded to is a team that has a lot of cap space that may not be looking to compete next year. And that would be the Brooklyn Nets. That could be a spot where I could see Lou Dort end up because, that's a team that could use him, like you said. But I mean, they already made the Julius Randle trade. They could use some more defense to try to stay out of that relegation zone in the bottom three. And Lou Dort knows Jordy Fernandez well from Team Canada. So if Lou Dort gets traded, I would not be shocked at all if he ended up going to the Brooklyn Nets. Defending NBA champion New York Knicks re-signed a couple key bench players. They re-signed Landry Shamet for 4 years, $24 million, and Jose Alvarado for 3 years, $15 million. Now, good deals for those guys. But Ben, I think this all but confirms. That Mitchell Robinson is not going to be with their team still. If any of the comments from James Dolan about them not going to the second apron are any indication.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance Robinson could be on a different team, but I think good for them for at least getting Alvarado, and yes, they get Landry Shamet because he's willing to take a cheaper team deal because he wanted to stay there, and that's great that Shamet was interested in that. And I think it's big to have him back, especially for shooting. He had some hot moments in the playoffs, and they're gonna need that going forward. And it's great to see Alvarado, the grown up New York guy, get a contract to come back, which I did expect, and can't wait to see him continue to be there.
Yeah, definitely agree. The team that the Knicks beat in the finals, the San Antonio Spurs, had a couple re-signings. They re-signed starting forward Julian Champagnie for 3 years, $45 million, and then backup veteran Harrison Barnes for 1 year, $8 million. Ben, any thoughts on these?
Yeah, I think just overall right amount of money, good deals. That's what I can say there.
Yeah, definitely important for them to bring those guys back. An interesting team to me, the LA Clippers, with a couple decisions that guys on their team made. First, they accepted the $9 million team option on big man Brook Lopez, who still is a good, essentially a 3-and-D5, can rim protect and also make threes on the offensive end. But just find it interesting that the Clippers accepted this when they may make a Kawhi trade and kind of go in the opposite direction. So, although they accepted the contract, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a contract that was traded throughout the year to see if Brook Lopez could offer something to another team. But I think a more interesting thing here, Ben, was that may have forgotten that this guy's existed. Bradley Beal, who missed a majority of the season due to a shoulder injury, declined his $5 million player option and is now going to be an unrestricted free agent. Now, of course, Beal, it was a disaster with the Clippers, as it was for their entire team throughout the start of it with all those old guys there. It worked out worse than anyone could have expected, especially us on them. We were all pretty high on the Clippers, but Bradley Beal, when healthy, was still a pretty decent scorer for the Suns. Obviously, great scorer with the Wizards, for their team, and can still show some promise. And now he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, Ben. That's probably going to go for cheap because he still is getting paid all the money from the Suns with the buyout. So, this is a low key player now, a former All Star, All NBA player that I think could potentially be an interesting piece that could end up on a different team this summer.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance he ends up on a different team. Hard to know where now, but there's been some reports that the Miami Heat maybe could be interested in him. So that's one possibility that I know of now. And yeah, he's getting older, Beal, but I mean, maybe if he did go to Miami, it could work out good. Coach Bo's a great coach there, and it, I'm thinking like if he did go there, they could possibly get some more out of him. So yeah, just after the rough years, it'd be nice to see Bradley Beal, get some more going with the scoring and stay healthy at least. So yeah,
Yeah, I think Miami is definitely the team to watch for him, especially if they lose Norman Powell this summer. I mean, it's kind of funny because it'd be the second straight year where Bradley
yeah,
Beal would replace Norman Powell
all of that.
at the shooting guard spot. Didn't work for the Clippers. We'd see if it would work for the Heat, but I definitely think that would make a lot of sense because he would, in theory, we said the same things last year. In theory, he could give the team similar things that Norman Powell gave on a much cheaper contract. So we'll see if that actually ends up happening. Um, the other deal that the Heat had is that Andrew Wiggins, starting small forward, signed a 3-year, $64 million deal, essentially. He accepted his $30 million player option, and then they added another 2 years for $34 million, so he can be their starting small forward, which is very good for them. He's going to be a very important player for Miami coming up this season. The Lakers, a couple of their key player option guys, a couple key starter guys. We had one guy accept their player option and another guy decline. DeAndre Ayton, starting center, accepted his $8 million player option, and then Marcus Smart declined his $5 million player option. So Smart is now going to be a free agent. Ayton is going to remain with the Lakers, Ben. Do you think that this could make any difference going forward?
Well, Mark Smart, he had his smart, pretty good moments, but also had his dumb moments. The
Marcus
Lakers,
Dumb.
Mark's dumb, yeah. uh, yeah, I've heard reports about the Houston Rockets possibly signing Marcus Smart, which could be good for them. But if he were gone from the Lakers and went to them, I think that loss would hurt LA, especially defensively. He still could play pretty well on that. And so, yep. And Smart would reunite with Udoka if he did go to Houston, which would be interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm very interested to see if Marcus Smart ends up on the Rockets because he feels like a perfect Rockets player. I mean, he could be back under Ime Udoka, who he won the Defensive Player of the Year award under, so that could be interesting. Let's see. For the rest of these, talking about the Rockets, Fred VanVleet opted into his $25 million player option. Makes sense. He'll be the starting point guard there coming off of his ACL injury. Expected move from the Cavs. James Harden declined his $42 million player option, is going to most likely re-sign for probably 2 to 3 years in the $60 to $70 million range. The more shocking thing is that the Cavs decided to re-sign Thomas Bryant, their backup center, to a 1-year minimum. A little shocking that they did that before free agency already started. But the other moves that happened, the Jazz re-signed Yusuf Nurkic for 2 years, $22 million. He had a pretty good year for Utah as the starting center with Walker Kessler injured. He'll be good insurance for them in case they lose Kessler. If not, he'll be a pretty good backup for them. The Atlanta Hawks declined Jonathan Kuminga's $24 million team option. So now he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So, Ben, amongst those four things, what stands out to you?
Uh, I mean, yeah, James Harden. It's like what I expected there, but the Cavs. I mean, like Harden. I think him not taking too crazy of a deal obviously will help open up more cap space. Curious to see what ways or any the Cavs approved there. I mean, yeah, maybe it's LeBron. Like I'm predicting. Who knows? But uh, and yeah, Kaminga free agent is interesting. I'm not too sure what could happen with him though. I'm guessing the Hawks could try to sign him to some new deal, but there could be other teams interested. So see on that.
Yeah, Kaminga, it's going to be very interesting because we said at the time of the trade, or I said I was not too sure about how the fit would work with him behind Jalen Johnson. Like he had some pretty good games in the first round of the playoffs coming in against the New York Knicks. But is going to be their backup to Jalen Johnson going forward. We saw the whole free agency last year with Golden State that went into basically training camp. Um, and the two teams that he was linked to, one of them was the Phoenix Suns, who, as we addressed earlier, addressed that need, bringing in Miles Bridges from the Hornets. But the other team was another team we talked about earlier, the Sacramento Kings. So I wonder if that's something like, I wonder if the Kings somehow come out of this offseason with Jalen Duren and Jonathan Kaminga as their starting front court with Keegan Murray. That could just be very interesting. Along with, of course, them drafting a Darius Acuff. So we'll see if that ends up holding true for them. But yeah, I think that'll be something to watch. Maybe it is the Kings, but I'd say it's probably the Hawks that get him back, or it's the Kings that get him.
Yeah, Sacramento. Yeah, them doing funny moves sometimes. It really wouldn't surprise me if they tried. Yeah,
Well, we'll see how Joey feels about that when he's back on the
I
podcast.
know.
See if he has anything to say. But I think that is all for now. We didn't get really any breaking news during the podcast, but we should get a whole lot of that more here this evening when Ben and I go live on YouTube for the start of free agency. Would expect this to probably start at around maybe 5:45 p.m., 5:50 p.m. Eastern time to get in right before free agency does begin here. But should be very exciting. Maybe we'll see what we can do. We'll have some fun on here as we always do. But that is it for us here. Ben, you have anything else before we get out of here?
No, I don't. Another little episode of you guys. I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, for sure. And again, stay tuned here tonight for our live, I guess, free agency podcast here on the channel. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.